Welcome to the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, where rude mechanicals do magic. Hello, I'm Bronze Age, Director of the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and welcome to another episode of Chair Hospital. In this week's episode, we have Rocking Chair Rescue. Now, today's patient is suffering from a very common problem, rotted rocker syndrome. In this case, it's eaten away this rocker completely and also eaten away the tenon. So our project today is to restore this tenon back and put two new rockers on it. The first thing I have to do is get what's left of this rocker off and then the rocker off on the other side. And this gives me some clues as to how it's put on. There's a little bit of glue residue left in here, although that might be from where somebody tried to repair it before it came completely loose. But I see the mark of a nail. So each of these, the rocker was pushed down on it and a nail put on from the inside. Now, since I'm going to be replacing all the rockers, not really all that worried about tearing them up, but I don't want to do any more damage to the tenon than absolutely necessary. A little spot right here gives a clue where the nail is, but I like to use my low-tech metal detector to make sure, which is just a magnet out of a computer hard drive, but it's pretty good at finding nails. Now I know it's been driven down below the surface, so without trying to cut the head of the nail off with a chisel, I have to dig down and reveal it. At least enough of it to get a head on it. There we go. We're at the Packard Precision 12-speed drill press, where I have spent an inordinate amount of time making this setup. But even though it's only going to take me maybe 10-15 seconds to drill this hole, it was more than worth it. The first thing I did was built this socket for the top of the leg to rest in and get it centered exactly underneath the chuck down here at the drill press foot. The plan is to drill a hole down the chair leg. I can put this wooden dowel in it, which will go down inside here far enough to relieve all the stress and also be long enough to go into the rocker. Now, to get this right, I had to get this piece centered underneath the drill chuck, just like I got the bottom centered. And so when I go to drill, it's going to go straight down in there. And this kind of thing is not that difficult, because when working with wood and drill press, a combination square, a plumb bob, and a Sharpie are really all you need. All right, we have a 3/4 inch Forstner bit drilling into what I think is poplar, some soft wood. So we are running at 1500 RPM. One of the problems of repairing a rocking chair is that to get a rocker cut from a piece of wood, you usually need to start with a big slab of wood, at least this thick. If you go to a lumber yard, finding a piece of wood that thick, it's going to be very expensive. In fact, it'll be so expensive that it can put the price of doing one of these jobs pretty much out of the reasonable range. You tell them what it's going to cost, they go, oh, no, I'll just have to live without that rocking chair. But there is a solution. You can make a slab, basically any thickness you want. These pieces of wood started out as a yellow pine 2x12. I planed them down to get them nice and clean and smooth on both sides. And I'm going to glue them all together, one stack here, let them sit over the weekend, and come back and I'll have enough wood that I can cut out both rockers on the bandsaw. I seldom take the pattern from the old rocker because the old rocker is usually worn out. And this one certainly is. It's got a big flat spot here. From where it sat, it got damp, and then the wood just kind of rotted away. Another point about rockers is they're not completely round all the way through. Behind the rear leg, there's actually a flat spot. And that's there to keep you from rolling over backwards anytime you are rocking in your rocking chair. When you're standing the rockers, you always do them with them clamped together so that you get the bottom curve perfectly even with each other. I have to move these clamps around so that I can get the entire board. The thing to remember, the curve on the bottom is what you're going to feel, but the top surface is what you're going to see. Now when it's time to replace the tenon, a couple things you have to keep in mind. The first thing is that even though you want the hole to be as deep as possible, you don't want to get down into where the hole is for the stretchers. That would create a very weak point, and that's just simply going to break. Second thing is, you don't want it to be too tight. A good slip fit is what you need so you can get good glue contact all the way around it, and it'll hold nice and tight. I'm going to use Titebond 2 for this, which is the waterproof version, although I don't expect this to be used in a really wet situation. It's obvious that it's been exposed to a lot of moisture before. Just paint a little glue on there, and I've got a flat side sanded onto it so that I won't create a pocket of glue at the bottom. But it turns nice and easy, and that means I've got a good glue contact. And let that sit overnight, and we'll continue this project in the morning. Now to restore this rotted off piece here, I'm going to be using Durham's Rock Hard Water Putty. This stuff has been around for a very long time. And it mixes up into this goop, which can be easily sculpted. Makes you feel like you're in kindergarten again, playing with it all. I usually do it in 2 layers. First, to get as much of the mass on there as I can. And then the second layer, which I'll be able to sand down and shape and get it just right. Every job has those little operations where you just don't get a second chance. If you screw up here, it's go back to start and start all over. I'm going to put my little jack underneath the board because the drill pressures on this are pretty tight, and the clamping, no matter how tight you get it, it's going to flex a little bit. So we got a 3/4 inch forstner bit going into yellow pine, so I've dropped the speed from 1500 down to 1000, and we're ready to drill. The other end requires a slightly different setup with these wedges holding the clamp so that I can get a bit more grip on the rocker, and then another little wedge which I put here underneath the front end so it'll be nice and solid. Rocking chairs come in two basic varieties. The first is the Windsor type chair, which has the legs that splay out, and the other is what we have here, where the legs are parallel to each other, and that makes drilling the holes and installing the rocker a lot easier. The edges on these rockers are a nice crisp 90 degrees, and even though it's never going to feel good to have some body part under a rocker, if it's got a sharp edge, it's going to be worse. So to reduce that hazard, I'm going to run them all through this small round over bit with the guide bearing on it. Both rockers get a coat of primer before I install them using hide glue. This is the glue that's reversible, so in the event that one day these rockers need to be repaired, they won't end up having to repair all four legs at the same time. So, this is Bronze Age for the Secret Underground Laboratory Recovery and Salvage, and really appreciate you sticking all the way to the end and watching me repair this old rocker. It will be back on someone's porch fairly soon and making new memories. And again, to appreciate you watching the video, I hope that you would subscribe, click the like button, and we'll be back next week with more videos from the Secret Underground Laboratory.